We have an update on the sex scandal that took place inside the Senate this past December. The United States Capitol Police say that they will not charge anyone in the video from the Senate hearing room.
The police said in a statement, "For now, we are closing the investigation into the facts and circumstances surrounding a sex video that was recorded inside the Hart Senate office building on the morning of Wednesday, December 13th. There's currently no evidence that a crime was committed." So very interesting, the laws around privacy in the case of recording yourself and a consenting partner doing sex acts. It seems that a lot of the laws revolve around consent, and if you have an expectation of privacy, it's generally permitted, whereas there are laws about recording in a bathroom. So I'm curious, are there a different set of rules for staff in Congress? Are they going to have to add this to their code of conduct? Seemingly, I wouldn't think of this as something necessary to put in the code of conduct, but that's where we are. But the legality, interesting that there's no laws being broken here.
I would disagree. So DC does have an obscenity law that prevents the filming of pornography, essentially. This was done in essentially a public space that's shared with other people. This was not done in the privacy of their home. It was done in their workplace, where there were apparently, from what I heard, other people actually present in the gallery while this was going on. And it was filmed apparently with the intent of making it available for public consumption. There were some videos from this staffer that were posted on his public X account, and these were also shared in large group chats with dozens of other individuals. And so it seems clear to me that this would be a violation of DC's obscenity law, but apparently the police decided to let it go because they said the two individuals in the video decided not to cooperate with them. They apparently exercised their Fifth Amendment rights, which is fine, but I don't know how exactly that would negate the ability to charge them, because it's literally on video what they did. I mean, I guess at the very least, this guy was fired from his job. That should have been the bare minimum. Although he claimed on a LinkedIn post at the time that he would not disrespect his workplace, and any attempts to characterize my actions otherwise are fabricated, which is just bizarre. I mean, the whole nature of what he did was disrespecting his workplace. So I'm kind of mind blown by this whole saga. There's a lot of bizarre things about it.
Yeah, we have no idea what evidence the police uncovered during their investigation. We don't really know what their decision-making process was, if there was some consideration of what the legal process would be, what it would expose, what happens if it's appealed to higher courts. What does that mean for this DC law that you're saying prevents the recording of pornography or obscenity? Who knows? There could be a number of things. I think, a lot of us are like, well, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to speak on this because it's apparently a legal matter. But as citizens of a democracy, theoretically, we all have some say in what we deem right and wrong in the public sphere. Now, if someone was in a congressional building, those are open to the public. If you work there, I can understand locking the door. That room's not one that's open to the public. I have gone in the Senate building and there have been doors that are locked. So although it's open to the public, there are various restrictions to who can go where and what's happening within the building. Of course, there needs to be some level of privacy in a place where extremely top secret matters are discussed that are matters of national security. So very interesting case. I think because, the staffer no longer works there, we're not going to see much come of this. I'm not sure how many people know who the staffer is. It seems to me that what I've heard of on the Hill being in DC, that there are a lot of people who know whose staffer this was and who it was. So I don't anticipate them working on the Hill in the future.
Yeah, he was a staffer for Senator Ben Cardin, and his name is public, although we're not going to say it on this channel. But it's very well known who he is. His face was in the video. So, I mean, you can identify him if you see screenshots or whatever is floating out there. But I would just say that I think you'd be hard pressed to find a majority of people agreeing that it is not acceptable to sneak off for a quickie in the Senate building just because the door is locked and technically the public can't enter. That reasoning sort of confounds me, to be honest with you.
I wasn't making an excuse. I didn't say it's totally chill that someone snuck away and had sex in the Senate building. I said, that would be a situation where it's not a public room where the public could
Uh-huh.
walk in and see what's happening. Do I think someone should have sex at work? Unless that's their job, probably not a good idea. I do have a problem, though, I think many working Americans do, with this notion that the boss owns all of your time between clock in and clock out. It feels very feudal to me that the boss would be able to tell you everything you do when you're clocked in. We know congressional staffers work very long hours. Should they be sneaking away and having quickies, while they're at work? It's definitely unsanitary. That's my beef with it. I wouldn't want to be in that room afterwards. But I think, respecting people's personal space and time at work is important. I think if they want to sneak away and take a break in a room where they don't have the public walking in, that's totally cool with me. But do I think it's fine that they were having sex in a congressional room? No, mostly because it's a little bit gross to me, a little bit unsanitary.
Yeah, I mean, they do have an hour lunch break where technically they're not being paid, where their boss can't control their actions. But otherwise, if you're on the clock, should you not be doing what your job duties say you're supposed to be doing?
It's interesting because that's where it gets fuzzy for a lot of congressional staffers. So there's a account that you can follow of the congressional staffers that are unionizing, Dear White staffers. They report on this a lot of what it's like for the mostly young people working in Congress, working on the Hill, serving our elected members of the Senate and the House. And many of them are actually working hours far beyond what's expected of them. And I think it's interesting to get into that because these are people that are serving the public. They're doing public service. They care about the people that they serve. A lot of times they're from the districts that they're now working for in Congress. And so, yeah, I've worked in politics before. I care a lot. I've worked way longer hours because I care. And so there are a lot of staffers that there's just this unspoken expectation that they work far beyond 8 hours a day, that they're working sometimes 14 hours a day. I've worked, 14-hour days when I was on the Bernie campaign, not because it was asked of me or expected, but because I wanted to keep knocking doors, keep talking to voters. Politics is one of those jobs where you either get into it because you love the West Wing or because you really care. But in both situations, there's kind of an expectation of working longer hours, which, that's how you get burnout. That's how you get a lot of really bright minds leaving the field and not being in public service anymore. I don't think that's a good thing that, it's actually not just an hour break that they're getting and working 4 hours on either side.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the positions are salaried, so there would be the expectation that you work however long it takes you to complete whatever your required job duties are versus an hourly worker who's getting paid based on how much time they actually spend on the job, just a different job construction. But we're out of time. We'll be back with more Rising after this.